to our second in-person and online community forum. I'm Superintendent Rick Sturmsey of the Putnam County School District, and I'm very glad to have this opportunity to really share and receive questions, just talk about some of the things that we're doing in the school district. And I want to preface this by saying we don't have all the answers, and this is why we're meeting with our public. We want public input. We want people to, question us about some things that are going on so that we can be a better district. And we've made a lot of gains. As a matter of fact, last week, we shared some information about our graduation rate, which I'm very proud of. We had a district graduation rate of 92.5%. And, 6 years ago in 2015, we had a 54.9% graduation rate. So again, that's the largest gain of any school district in the entire state. And we're currently ranked 16 out of 67 districts. So those are some things we're proud of, but I recognize that we have a long ways to go. And one thing that we're really striving for now as part of our 5-year strategic plan is we really want to focus on the portrait of a graduate. When students graduate from a Putnam County high school, what are some of those skills and attributes that they need to have to be successful either in a college or a career track? So again, that's what our school district is about. And it starts in pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And there's a lot of work to do. And we've overcome and are still overcoming this pandemic, but it's not going to slow us up. And we're going to continue to educate your children. And at the same time, we're going to keep them safe. So there's been a lot of questions that we've received over the last few days. And I just want to thank everyone who's here. This will be recorded. A portion of this will be recorded. And again, so we can make this available for future audiences. But again, we're going to be going over some of the format here in just a minute of this community forum. I'm going to ask as our staff comes up and answers some of your questions and talks about some of the initiatives we have. I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves and their title and any other information they feel is pertinent. But at this time, I want to introduce Ashley McCool, who's our Director of Community Relations. She's going to go over tonight's program and the format. And before I bring her up, I just want to thank Tim Adams, Principal of Crescent City Junior Senior High School, and his staff for making their cafeteria available to us. As you know, we had our first forum in Palatka back in November at the CeeLo cafeteria. Tonight, we're in Crescent City, and in this spring, and we'll announce a date later, we will hold our third community forum at Interlochen Junior Senior High School. So we're trying to have it in different places throughout the year. Issues change. So again, by the time we get to the spring, there'll be some other questions that will be generated by that time. So thank you again for being here. And I want to introduce Ashley to come up and go over tonight's format. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much to all of our district staff who have taken time away from their evenings to join us and share some important information with you. I'm just going to go over the format. As he said, we did our first forum in November, and we learned some things there to try to make tonight's a little more concise and more timely and ensure that we do respect everyone's time. So we did do a survey again. It was an anonymous survey, and we had a great response. We closed that Tuesday evening. And from that survey, it generated a lot of questions that we reviewed, compiled, pulled data. And instead of reading each question one by one tonight, we have arranged them in 5 areas that will be addressed. The first one being COVID-19 and health services, and we have Kenna Foster here for that. Staff compensation, Rhonda Odom is joining us on Zoom and will share. All of the questions around curriculum acceleration, school procedures, Laura France will address those. Student discipline and motivations, Sarah Jean McDaniel. And then we also have our Student Services Director, Randy Hedstrom, with us tonight. And then Dr. Sartzi will speak about the district revitalization plan and give you some updates there and some exciting things coming soon for that. At that time, then we'll open it up for questions from anyone in the live audience and questions for anyone on Zoom if the areas have not already been addressed. So again, we appreciate your time, all of our district staff. This will be recorded. The presentation portion will be recorded. We will post this on our website for folks who were not able to join tonight. We'll get started with Ms. Kenna Foster, our Health Services Coordinator. And Mikey will get a PowerPoint. And a big thank you to Mikey Helms. For those of you who don't know him, he always jumps in and helps with our tech and making this work for people live and on Zoom. So thank you, Mikey.
Good evening, I'm Kenna Foster. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for over 30 years. My specialties have included emergency medicine, ICU, forensics, and public health. I know lots of individuals have questions about COVID-19, even though we are in this going on 3 years now, things continually change. And understand that is normal when you deal with a new virus, and that's what COVID-19 was. So COVID-19, where are we now? You can see in the slide, this is from the beginning when we started way back February 2020 and where we are now. You have the Alpha, which was our first wave, Beta was our second, Delta was our third, and we are now in our fourth wave, which is Omicron. I provided a 2-week comparison of the state of Florida of all the counties. Basically, this shows on Christmas Eve, moving forward, the dark purple is where COVID was the highest, and red, or that lighter pink, was where COVID was the lowest. So it goes light pink to dark. So you can see where we were in a red, and now we're in a darker red. So it's spreading through the state of Florida. So where are we with the Putnam County School District?
Yeah, that's it for me.
With the Putnam County School District, the numbers you see on the dashboard are the number of employees or students that have tested positive that are in isolation and not at school today. So that will be a fluctuating number. You might have seen 75 yesterday, but those people have cleared isolation. And if school was open, they could have participated today. So when the doors open Tuesday, the 18th, we will have 49 positive students. That's less than 0.5% of our student body, and 18 positive employees. That's 1.25% of all our employees in the district. So what did we do with COVID-19? When we began the year, we established 4 goals to pause. We wanted to step back, be surgical in what we did, not make rash, knee-jerk decisions. Look at all of the evidence, talk to all of our public health partners, make decisions based off of that. Stay. We ask people to stay home if they are sick, whether that be a student or an employee or a visitor. Please don't come to our campus or our offices if you are sick. Clean. We encourage schools to do routine cleaning, which we are doing at all schools. And then we have enhanced cleaning if there is a concern in regards to a positive case in a small office or in a classroom. I consult after hours with executive leadership on that, or the principal, for enhanced cleaning. Wash your hands. The most basic thing you can do with any respiratory virus. Next. So routinely, what we did when school opened and what we continue to do every day is encourage vaccinations. We had vaccination clinics on campus for employees and students. Highly recommended, and still continue to do so, mask and correct mask usage. Encourage hand washing and sneezing into your elbow. Like that is how you want to sneeze. Cohort our groups of elementary kids. And all that means is little groups, they stay in the little group all day long as they move throughout their day. Stay home when you're sick and get tested. Clean and disinfect spaces. Ensure proper ventilation. We have a triage assistant at every school with a dedicated triage room. We have free COVID testing at 2 sites for all employees and students. We do surveillance, contact tracing, and case management 7 days a week. And we have strong communication with our public health partners. Okay. So I took a little vacation the end of November and was actually on a boat. and got a call that we had a new variant of concern, Omicron. I immediately picked up the phone, called Dr. Cernicy, Mr. Bowling, talked with the executive leadership and said, this has the potential to be bad. We need to start looking at what we're going to do about this. And so this is what we know about Omicron, is what it was named. We know it's highly contagious. It's more contagious than any variant we have had to date. We know it evades immunity. What that means is if you've had COVID before or you've had a vaccine, you can still get Omicron. We know incubation time has shortened to about 3 days. And what incubation time is, just think about cooking. So basically, if you've come in contact with Omicron, it takes about 3 days from your contact before you will start to develop symptoms. When we had Delta, it was about 5 days. And way back in the beginning in 2020, March, you were looking at 10 to 12 days then. So it's getting quicker. Milder symptoms. Omicron in general has symptoms that are so mild for the average individual, you might not even notice it. A headache that might come and go, might have a sniffle, might have a runny nose, scratchy throat, things that you might dismiss as allergies or a cold. We are seeing people get better quicker. So they might be sick for a couple days, but in 2 to 3 days, they're feeling better. Thus far, we are seeing decreased hospitalizations and death compared to Delta. And I understand everyone is watching the news and you're seeing where hospitals are overwhelmed. But understand, anytime you have a lot of disease, no matter what it is, it will increase your hospitalizations because you have so many people going to get checked on. Okay. So as we participated on national calls, international calls, state calls, got more information, I met with the executive leadership team and the principals and made recommendations. So these are enhanced recommendations that we implemented January the 3rd. These are the same recommendations that we also did during Delta and that we also did last winter. We do enhanced measures regardless anytime we see an increase. It could just be an increase at one school that I would make the recommendation to implement these changes. So we don't wait for some special new name of something. So what we did is for every event that's at a school or after hours like this, the leader of that event will contact me. We review the event and I make recommendations on how to best keep people safe. We limited visitors on campus to essential only, although parents can make appointments with the principal if they need to speak with the principals or the teacher. We transitioned our employee meetings to virtual. Those meetings that cannot be held virtually, we've limited the participation to 4 people in a room. We limited visits for employees that go to multiple schools. So if you're an employee that goes to multiple schools throughout the day, we've tried to change that schedule. Encouraging virtual activities and events. We reduced sports and other events to 75% venue capacity. And we optimized our ventilation by looking at air exchange rates with the ventilation system, opening windows and doors when it doesn't create a safety hazard. So those are the things that we have done. As a school district, we have a policy. And our policy states that we will follow the laws of the state of Florida and the guidance of Florida Department of Health. So as you have seen changes on TV, CDC says 5 days, Dr. Smo says 3 days, this person says 12 days. We follow the guidance of Florida Department of Health. So on September the 22nd, the Surgeon General signed that this is how COVID would be controlled in schools. 1, we're going to do routine cleaning of classrooms in high traffic area. We're doing that. We would encourage students to wash their hands through the day. We're doing that. Students and employees stay home if they're sick. We're encouraging that. Masks cannot be mandated in the state of Florida in the school setting. I know we received several questions. Why can't we mandate? Could we mandate? We need to bring back masks. According to Florida law, we cannot mandate masks in the school setting. Okay, next slide. Okay. For symptomatic or positive students, they must be home 10 days if they have a symptom, or get no symptoms and a negative test, or receive written permission from their doctor. This is for any student or employees with symptoms or if they're positive. So this is law that we have to do this. That's why we're not following the CDC 5-day guideline. For quarantine, in the state of Florida now, if you are a student, a parent has the right to opt their child out of quarantine. And we will talk about that in a second. So that basically means if your student is exposed and they have no symptoms, then you have the right to send them to school. If they develop symptoms, then they need to stay home and be tested. So this is the decision tree. So basically, if you're exposed to COVID, you have no symptoms, the parent chooses if they're going to keep you home 7 days from your last contact. Okay, so if you have a child that was around Uncle Johnny yesterday that was positive, you can keep them home 7 days from yesterday. Or if your child has no symptoms, send them to school. If you are positive, or your child is, you return to school after you are asymptomatic and a negative test. Home tests are not accepted. And you have to be both those things, negative test and asymptomatic, which means no symptoms. No runny nose, no cough, no tickle, no headache. Or 10 days have passed if you choose not to test or take your child to the doctor, or get written permission from your physician. So what happens when a student is at school and they develop symptoms? The teacher identifies this. They are sent to the triage room. The triage room takes the temperature, finds out what symptoms are occurring. They complete this letter that basically says your child had these symptoms today, and this is how you return. We have 2 locations for testing. One location is the health department on Kennedy Street. That is by appointment only. The phone number is on the letter. And that is Monday through Friday by appointment if you have symptoms only. The second location we have is 1101 Hudson Avenue, and that is for anybody in the community that would like to test. So what happens when the school finds out, or the Florida Department of Health lets us know that there's a positive case? We're notified of the positive case. We identify who could have been a contact through contact tracing, which all that basically means is, take Mr. Adams, for example. I ask him for the seating charts, where everybody sat, where everybody rode on the bus. I identify who's been around the student, and then I let him know these are the students that have been exposed. Please provide a letter to the parent. So we will provide you the quarantine letter, and at that time, you have the option again. If your child has no symptoms, stay home for 7 days, and it'll have when they can return on the bottom, or send them back to school. So this is what the letter looks like. It basically tells you your child was exposed. It gives you what symptoms to look for, and there are 2 options you can choose. I'm sending my child back, or I'm keeping my child out until this date. Absences will only be excused through this date we have on the letter, unless your child develops symptoms. If your child develops symptoms, call your school, let them know. They'll get in touch with me, and my office will call you and we'll help walk you through the process. Okay. Next. So let's say right now you can't get into the doctor, you can't get into the health department. It's a weekend, you've got a home test. When a student takes a home test and they notify the school, we then send an awareness letter to the parents of those that have been around the child. It is not quarantine. Remember, the school district only issues a quarantine or isolation for the Florida Department of Health. So we are not quarantining your child or the employee. We are not isolating them. We're doing it on behalf of the Florida Department of Health. Okay. So this is what that letter looks like. Basically still the same thing, lets you know what symptoms to look for, and then gives you my number if you have questions. But your child does not stay home in this circumstance. Okay. Questions, concerns, recommendations, that's where we are in the process.
Thank you, Kenna. If there's anyone in the chat on Zoom who has a specific question for Kenna, if you could ask that question now, if it was something that was not covered in her presentation, please let us know. Okay, good deal. And if you guys think of, if anyone thinks of a question, you can certainly give it to us at the end and we'll get it to Kenna and respond back to whomever may have a question. Quick introduction. At this time, Rhonda Odom is going to talk to us about staff compensation.
Thank you, Ashley. Some questions were asked through the survey on staff compensation. As some of you may know, the school district is funded through state, local, and federal revenues, and each year we are tasked with being good stewards of our money. So we, do the best that we can with the funds that we're provided. As we begin the process, we have a chief negotiator on the union side and also one on the district side, as well as a team of people that meet together throughout the year to determine the most pressing needs of the district and to look at available funding to see what can be accomplished. Once the teams do come to an agreement after several meetings, the union has the tentative agreement ratified by a vote of the bargaining employees, and the district sends the tentative agreement to the school board for approval. Now, through negotiations this school year, we did a retention bonus to 792 employees who did not receive a $1,000 bonus from the state. The state had sent these bonuses directly to teachers only. We gave automatic steps on the instructional and the classified salary schedule. We completed MOUs to provide stipends for chief science officers and 7th period pay for those willing to give up their planning period. We gave monthly perfect attendance bonuses of $250 to bus drivers and aides. We gave a $3 an hour raise to bus drivers and a $1 an hour raise for bus aides and for school food service workers. We completed a sign-on bonus for new drivers of $1,000 plus an additional $1,000 after they did 1 year of service if they stayed with us. We also approved a $500 recruitment bonus, to current employees who recommended new drivers. We also approved a $1,000 retention bonus for current drivers at the end of the school year. We also provided up to 10 days of paid COVID leave for those that met the qualifications to be on COVID leave. We increased the supplement schedule at the school level by $125,000. We also approved an additional $1,500 per employee supplement from our group insurance fund to aid all the employees who were on our health insurance plans. And that was above the $4,500 a year board contribution that the district already pays toward each employee's health insurance. We approved a $500 health savings account contribution to all employees on our group health insurance plan. And also through the governor's initiative of raising beginning teacher pay, the state gave us additional funds this year to provide a $600 raise for classroom teachers, but it was only ones that had 0 to 8 years of experience. We matched that raise for our non-classroom teachers also, and the state gave us funds to give veteran teachers, who were the teachers that had 9 years and up of experience, $80. From district funds, we bumped that up to $400 per teacher, including classroom and non-classroom teachers. The total estimated cost of that compensation package that was negotiated, ratified, and board approved this school year was $4.4 million. And I will be on here and available if there's any questions at the end of the presentations.
Thank you, Ms. Odom. Again, we will have an opportunity if you have questions about compensation when we wrap up with our presentations. At this time, Ms. Laura France is going to come up and share the questions that she received that are related to her work.
And Randy Hedstrom's going to help and answer a couple of these as well that are more discipline related or school counselor related. So the first thing I'm going to address that I know as he's pulling it up is there were still some questions around COVID and school concerns or staffing concerns. And so one of the first things I want to say is as students are quarantined, they actually are not counted as absent from school. So students who are under quarantine officially through KENA and through that department is they are actually counted as present in school during that time. But that does make it makes it necessary for those of you who are finding out maybe through a home test that you contact the school so that you can go through that process to make that happen. Go like 3. Yeah, G. Okay, there you go. And some of you also were concerned about your child while they are quarantined, not being able to access their work while they're home, and having children that just had to go through this, I absolutely understand. But all student work should be posted in our learning management system called Canvas that your child can access through their account in PCSD. And if there is not work in Canvas for your child, I would encourage you to reach out to the teacher through an email or through the school administration. And so those lessons or work for your child should be posted in there for them to work on. But if there is an individual teacher or class that does not have that work, reach out to the school, please. Another question was regarding staffing. When we have the number of staff out, what are we doing? Well, I wanted to say that recently we've been doing all hands on deck approach. We all have people who have some instructional background, and we've been deploying them to the schools to support when we cannot get school personnel or substitutes to cover. And what we do try to do, if we know a teacher is going to be out for, let's say, 3 days, we do try to get someone who can do the 3 days consistently so that the students don't have a different face in front of them each day. That way we can try to keep as a consistent plan for students as possible. And many parents are asking about option 2, like, can't we just go back to digital learning like we did previously? It is actually option 2, or digital home learning, is not an option anymore. The FDOE did not put it into the emergency order, so we may not use that as an instructional strategy this year. There were some questions about opportunities for students that we have, and I just want to plug a couple. One is, if you are worried about your child returning to school, we always have and have had a Putnam virtual school as an option for students who are wanting to access education through Putnam schools, but in a virtual format. That is actually something that we do provide. And if you're interested in that, Mary Wood at the district office is who you would be calling to get some information about that. Every year we do send out an email to all families and a letter home that talks about if you would like to access this as an educational opportunity for your child, to set up an appointment with that department. There were also some questions about secondary acceleration options. We have lots of different acceleration options. Every school is a little bit different. We have Cambridge as an option here in Crescent City High School, as well as QI Roberts, junior, senior high school. At Interlochen and Palatka High School, you have collegiate high school, the collegiate high school program, which gets students the AA at the same time that they're getting their high school diploma. We also have advanced placement classes throughout the district at every school, which also can earn you college credit, and dual enrollment opportunities with St. John's River State College, and in the for those of you who live in the Interlochen area, we also go for Santa Fe Community College. We also have lots of CTE classes. That was a question we had And I'm going to project on the screen if you don't mind flipping forward. We have lots of programs of study. Those do differ at each school. Each school has a unique number of opportunities for students. If you were interested in a program of study that's not at the school you were at, you could elect to go to another school. You would just have to provide transportation. We also do some dual enrollment opportunities for students in CTE classes. Those are also listed up here, and those are facilitated through St. John's River State College. I had some questions about ELL supports for our families or our students. Each student who is a non-English speaker does get an ELL plan that is individualized for them. And it is really, it talks about the accommodations that we should be giving those students to help them be successful. And I have exampled a couple of those up there. We also have a kind of an ESOL class. We have a partnership with Learn to Read, and that is every Friday night from 6 to 8 in the CL Over Turf cafeteria. And that is for students that are adults that are 16 and older, and that helps them with getting those English skills. Student support's got to keep going. Okay. So these are just kind of the random questions that kind of came up. We are really excited. There are some questions about how to help students be successful in school. We are in a very lucky position that we are getting new standards for ELA, that's our English classes, in K-12, as well as all of our math classes. And we are actually also able to update our curriculum at the same time. And a lot of that curriculum is being able to be accessed through your students' devices at home and through single sign-on, that you can see those pieces at home. So over the next year, actually throughout the rest of this year and beginning next year, you will have access to all new curriculum for ELA and math classes through the district. There was a question about valedictorian and salutatorian. We do not do Val and Sal, but we do offer ranking for students in 12th grade only. And so we do rank our students in 12th grade. We actually provide 2 different transcripts, one that has the rank and one that does not, for students at the end of their school with us. And I'm gonna let Randy address the 2 questions. I'm gonna read them to him because he doesn't have them, sorry. So Randy, the first question was having access to school counselors. How do students get access to school counselors?
Students can, our parents can go in on our website to the mental wellness. We have 3 therapists that it takes a parent consent in order for those therapists to see them. We also have 2 counselors, an elementary school counselor, and also that works for the district, that's district-wide, is not based at a school, but does all elementary school kids. Also, we have a middle and high school counselor that also does middle and high school. So they go anywhere within the district. And if a parent would like to have that counseling, and that does not take parent consent. So if a counseling here in Crescent City, if there has some issues with the kid that you feel like that child needs some help, the parents can go on the website, the mental wellness website, and fill out a referral, which will go to Stephanie Weldon, and she will assign a counselor to that child. Or you can call the school and ask for that kind of counseling, and the guidance counselor at the school can fill out that referral. Either way, that would be fine.
Okay, and then there was a question regarding discipline and expulsions. And the question was, it looks like there's an increase in expulsions from last year.
Yes.
Do you have any insight as to why that number has gone up?
Yes, it's a nationwide problem with some of the, after the kids had been not socialized within a school setting, and they all came back to school at one time. There was some issues, and we've had some of those issues, and we've addressed those issues. Some of the incidents that we've had, and we also, before in 2020, When we had option 2, we were able to place those students on option 2 versus expel them from the school system. And they just did their work from home, which we've also found out the kids struggle by not virtually doing their learning virtually. But we did have that, we no longer have that option. At some of the schools, we've had some students who have decided to take things from off campus and bring them to school. And we've had some fights, which our school board employees were actually not harmed bad, but the students would not stop fighting. And it also disrupted more than one class. So at that point, the principals of those schools felt like they needed, the administration felt like they needed to put those kids up for expulsion. And that's what we've done. Also, if a student brings a weapon to school, the principal has no choice. It's state statute that child will be put up for expulsion. May not be expelled, but will be put up for expulsion.
Randy, this wasn't a question, but we've done a lot of work pre-expulsion now. Do you just kind of want to address some of the?
This is something from the, this was an idea that Justin Campbell brought from the last formal that we had, that he brought this up, and it makes a lot of sense that we would do a pre-expulsion kind of hearing to where the parents wouldn't talk about the discipline or what, but we would give them options like homeschool, virtual school, other things if the child did get expelled from school. And we kind of, Mary would, and just kind of lay out what the parent can expect in the expulsion hearing. Expulsion hearing, usually the student, the school says their part of what took place, usually includes video, statements and so on, police reports that sometimes, then the parent and the student get an opportunity to say their side of the story on what took place. So that's what, but they do this to try to give the student and the parent some options if they do get expelled, which is a great idea. And it also makes them much more comfortable going into the expulsion.
Thank you very much. If you had questions that were very specific to a school that we did not answer, I would encourage you to reach out to that school and speak to an administrator at the school to get the answer. Specific school questions are kind of hard to answer in this format, and it would be better for the school to answer them directly. So, thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Sarah G. McDaniel, and I'm going to address some of the questions that came in about student support, motivation, and some other specific discipline questions. The questions are a little all over the place, so I'm going to go just one by one. When I read the questions, though, what came to mind was relationships, and that is what we try to do in Putnam County School District, is build relationships with every student and make sure that there are staff members that know those students and build those relationships and do everything that they possibly can for those students. There's concern about students that are failing their core courses and not maybe being able to graduate or make it to high school. And again, I have been in meetings with principals and guidance counselors, and they know those students by name. They know what they need to graduate, what they need to make it to the next grade. We do offer courses for them like credit recovery, just everything possible. We want every child to succeed. So, but it does take relationships with the child and those families. So we encourage everyone to be in that together to help every child. There was a question specifically about discipline, and we all have our own styles of discipline at home and how we have raised our children, but no, we do have limits at the school. But again, I want to go back to building relationships, because true change comes from motivating and encouraging and building those relationships with students. We do have our code of conduct that we must follow, and you can access that and see that if your child has to be disciplined, we do have to have consequences. That doesn't mean that that student can't come back, start fresh again, but building those relationships and setting goals and encouraging students is what we really try to do. We're in this wonderful cafeteria tonight. I don't know if you've been in our cafeterias at our schools, but they have really gotten a facelift. I'm looking around and we have bar stools and countertops and some wonderful things. And we have Nikki Hawthorne. I want to give a big shout out to her. She is the director of school food services, and she has done so much work to make sure not only our students are fed, but our families are fed. I don't know, you probably knew during the pandemic when we had schools closed, we had our school food service workers. They were serving breakfast, they were serving lunch, and they even had some dinners going out. So we do everything we can. There was concern about wasting food. The goal is to encourage students to eat balanced meals. We don't know how many kids are going to be at school every day or what they're going to eat, but we do have trend data, and we look at the breakfast every day and know how many usually eat. So we put that much out, and the students are able to get that. Again, if you haven't been in a school cafeteria, it is not the school cafeteria that we had long ago. There's some great food, so we encourage the students to eat that and make sure every child gets a chance to eat. And we do have a grant that Ms. Hawthorne worked on, and all of our students get free breakfast and free lunch every day. So is there a way that we can motivate our kids more? And I do want to talk about that. We have made some changes this year, and we've talked about some of the hiccups and some of the issues we've had, but we're getting our 7th graders into our high schools. And when you get them plugged in 7th and 8th grade, they have an opportunity to participate in sports. They have an opportunity to participate in clubs, and we offer classes that we couldn't offer before because we have the high school teachers that can cross over to our middle school kids. So, getting a kid when they're 12, 13 years old, I think we are moving in that direction. We always have work to do, and we're looking at ways to reach every kid and motivate every kid all the time. But I am excited about the opportunities that we're offering for our students at middle school now, and trying to get them in and just plug into something that will encourage them and motivate them. And that's all I have.
Rick Cerncy, Superintendent. I want to talk about the revitalization plan. And in case you haven't heard about that, it's been exactly a year ago that we introduced our first draft of our revitalization plan. And just briefly, if you recall, that involved the closing of 5 of our 18 schools at the end of last year. And I realize that anytime a district goes to close any school, that is something that is not taken lightly. So we have been very transparent with all of our parents and our community members to make sure they understood the rationale on why we did that. Essentially, Putnam County has gone through a period of time over the last 10 years where our enrollment has continued to decline. And because of that, running a school system, which is a financial endeavor, and keeping up all the buildings and the overhead became cost prohibitive. So we made the decision last year to go ahead and close these schools. These are aged out schools. And we said, we need to really make the best use of our facilities and really save the taxpayers' money, be good stewards of the money that we receive from our taxpayers. So essentially what came out of that was we've gone to a kindergarten 6 elementary school system, which we used to have a kindergarten through 5. And then our middle schools have transformed into a 7-12 junior high school configuration, which we are now operating on. That has been, I think, a really good thing. I think our junior high students have really benefited from that. As a matter of fact, I went to a junior high basketball game last night, and it's really great to see our junior high kids really take advantage of the high school life and be involved in student activities. And not only that, just to be able to have a head start on a lot of the high school programs, the acceleration programs, the career programs. They're exposed to those at an earlier age. And I think we're going to see a lot of benefits from that in our years to come. But again, it's been a big lift. It's been a lot of changes. And I just want to thank you and all of our staff, all of our students who have endured that, and know that all that is a price we're paying to make our district better. And with that, the thing that I'm most excited about, and I know you are too, is the building of new schools, which is part of our revitalization plan. As you know, Putnam County had the second highest average in age of all the schools in the entire state of Florida. And we have schools that were built here in Crescent City were built in the 1920s. And we have other schools that were built beginning in the 40s, 50s, and 60s on through 70s and 80s. I mean, we have some very old schools. But again, it's time that we provide the best possible schools for our kids. And why should our kids do without when there are other districts that have the opportunities to put their children in state-of-the-art facilities? So we made the decision to really go out there and provide our kids with the best opportunities that they deserve. Now, you know, it takes a lot of money to do that. And so let me just fill you in briefly on what we are doing to secure these funds. And this is really important. First of all, the state of Florida provides funding through what we call special facilities. And these are funds that are available, especially for small rural districts who may not have the tax base to build new schools. We are actually applying for the first round of special facilities funding February the 1st. And that will be a process that we will begin, and that will actually go before the legislature in the 2023 legislative session. So technically, if we could receive some funding from the state to build a new school in a 3-year period of time, we could begin construction as early as 2023, sometime in the spring of 2023. We are also in the process of securing money through what we call a bond, securing a bond. And that, a lot of people don't understand the bond concept, and I won't go into a lot of detail, but essentially securing a bond is asking the voters of Putnam County to approve an expenditure in the amount of $300 million. And that sounds like a lot of money. Sounds like a big mortgage payment. But essentially, we would be able to borrow money in the form of bonds and use that money to build schools over a period of time. And over a longer period of time, the taxpayers would pay this back. But again, there needs to be a lot more explanation about this. And actually in March, we're going to have a presentation where we will explain this more in detail about how bonds work. But again, in November of 2022, the taxpayers will have the opportunity to decide whether or not to do that. And really that will be an investment in the future of Putnam County. And again, as our community is revitalizing, as we're trying to, increase the quality of life in Putnam County, the schools, building new schools will only add to that and bring people to Putnam County and just enrich the lives of our children and give them opportunities that they most deserve. So through the special facilities funding and the bond issue over the next 10 years, it is our plan that we're going to build 9 new schools, possibly a 10th school, depending on the age. We'll build these schools using this combination of state and local money. Okay, now the whole plan is a 3-phase plan. In the first phase, it'll be a 3-year phase starting in 2023. And then the next phase will be the next 3 years. And the last phase will be the last 3 years. During those times, we plan to build 3 schools per phase. And I'll just say this because this is an ever-changing landscape as far as which schools will be built first and so on. It really involves the age of the school and the capacity. Is that particular school, is it being crowded because of a large enrollment? These are all things that we're taking into consideration. So some schools' order may change as we go through this process. But when we made this decision, we're not making it on, who's popular, who's happy, who votes or whatever. We make it on advice from our engineering consultant consultant organization that gives us advice about, which one of those should be the best one to build during that period of time to meet our specific needs. So I just want you to know this is an ever-changing process. Right now, I do want to say, in the first phase, we are looking at the very first school, provided we get the special facilities funding, would be right here at Crescent City Junior Senior High School. This is one of our older schools. As you know, Mr. Adams is the principal. He's standing out here and smiling real big. And this would be exciting for Crescent City. This is what our kids deserve here. And we will build this right on the same footprint where the school is now. Our second one would be Middleton Burney Elementary School. And the plan is to build that on the site. And their principal is here too. Mr. John is here too. So Middleton Burney would actually be built on the site where Miller Middle School is right now. So that would be right in downtown Crescent City. And man, Crescent City would, have possibly the first two schools. We are looking at the third school in that first phase being one of the two elementary schools in Pulaski. Okay. And again, that site and so forth would be determined. And then the subsequent phases would be determined based on the specific needs at that time. In March, when we have the board meeting, we will provide up-to-date information on the order of schools. The first thing that we're going to be doing in this entire process is hiring an architectural firm because we have to have plans drawn up and to submit to the state. So that'll be one of the first steps we take in this entire process. But again, those ever that are curious about when is my school going to be built, that is a kind of an evolving process. I don't want to say right now because that could change tomorrow. So as we get more information, as we get our architectural firm under contract, we will try to provide more up-to-date information about those subsequent phases in our construction. But again, I do want to say this is an exciting time. These are schools that'll be built probably after a lot of us have retired and moved on. But you know what? We're making an investment for our kids and our grandkids that will be around for decades. So I just ask that if you have questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us. It is our desire to go out and educate the public about this entire process, especially things like the bond issue and so forth. So with that, I think the next part, and Ms. McCool will come up and talk, is about fielding any questions that our group has, that our audience has.
We have, through these presentations, tried to cover all of the questions. I know Ms. France mentioned, if you gave a question that was specific to a staff member or a specific school, we take those to those people and that staff directly. We are not in the practice of sharing specific questions like that in a public forum. So just know that in future forums, that is how we handle that as well. So we feel like we've answered or at least covered some of the information that you wanted, but certainly this is the time. If there are other questions from those of us in the audience here live or questions via Zoom,